Hello and welcome back to Evolve Time. Guys, today we're going to talk about things you may know or may not know about the American Revolution. We're going to start with some background information first. Are you ready? Let's start.
Britons have been involved in 4 wars ranging from 1689 to 1763, but the last of these wars was so influential for the American colonies. In 1764, it was the Sugar Act that mainly affected business merchants and shippers. Then after, the Stamp Act, which literally all paper was taxed with a stamp. That means that the person who consumed that paper had to pay the tax on the paper.
Also, it was announced the Quartering Act, which required colonies to house and feed British soldiers who were stationed in the colonies. However, the Parliament did repeal the Stamp Act in 1766.
In 1767, the Townshend Acts were passed which placed taxes on things like tea, glass, and paper. Then after, a confrontation between British troops and a mob occurred in Boston on March 5, 1770, when a group of citizens confronted 8 British soldiers in the streets of Boston. The soldiers responded by firing into the crowd. This confrontation is known as the Boston Massacre. The Boston Tea Party was a raid that took place in Boston Harbor in 1773, during which American colonists dumped shiploads of tea into the water to protest a British tax on tea. This event was important because it fueled the tension that had already begun between Britain and America.
In 1774, Britain passed what is called the Coercive Act, but in the colonies came to be known as the Untitled Act because it involved closing part of Boston, limited power of Massachusetts legislature, and also required the Quartering Act to be applied to all the colonies again, which meant, as we said before, that everybody's got to let soldiers stay in their houses and they got to feed them too.
In the same year, the Quebec Act came out. It established religious freedoms, it extended the borders, and did not have a representative government for Quebec. And also that year, the First Continental Congress was held in Philadelphia, where the colonists talked about how they could address the situation with Britain.
The battles of Lexington and Concord signaled the start of American Revolutionary War on April 19, 1775. The British Army set out from Boston to capture rebel leaders Samuel Adams and John Hancock in Lexington, as well as to destroy the American store of weapons and ammunition in Concord. In May, the Second Continental Congress met. Delegates from the 13 colonies functioned as a de facto national government at the outset of the Revolutionary War by raising armies, directing strategies, appointing diplomats, and writing petitions as the Declaration of the Causes. In July, they submitted the Olive Branch petition to the king. It was sent to the king as the last attempt to prevent formal war from being declared. The petition emphasized their loyalty to the British Crown and emphasized their rights as British citizens.
In the following month, in August of 1775, Parliament declared the colonies in rebellion, which meant that the colonists started recruiting their army, and George Washington was appointed as commander-in-chief of this colonial army.
In the next year, in January, Thomas Paine's pamphlet called Common Sense, which said that colonies will be fine without a king, basically. Also, in July, the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the Second Continental Congress. Following a decade of agitation over taxes and a year of war, representatives made the break with Britain and all began.
In 1777, the Battle of Saratoga took place in New York. It was a turning point in the Revolutionary War. The American defeat of the superior British Army lifted patriot morale, furthered the hope for independence, and helped to secure the foreign support needed to win the war. In 1781, the Articles of Confederation were ratified. This was an agreement among the 13 original states of the United States of America that served as its first constitution. The same year, the last major battle took place. The British General Charles Cornwallis surrendered his army of some 8,000 men to General George Washington at Yorktown, Virginia, giving up any chance of winning the Revolutionary War.
Later, in November of 1782, the preliminary article of peace were signed by both Britain and the United States. Finally, in 1783, the Treaty of Paris formally ended the American Revolution. The main point of it were that Britain has to recognize the United States as an independent nation. The Mississippi River is the western border of the United States. The United States get fishing right off the coast of Canada, and the United States will pay debts to British merchants.
Well, guys, that was all for today. See you next week. Thank you.